Hey, I'm Angelo Pinto, and welcome to Let It Rip. We're coming to you from the shadow of the Empire State Building in New York City. We're stepping into one of the most important and evolving conversations in New York City, public safety. Not just policing, not just crime statistics, but the full picture. Because public safety in 2026 is no longer a single agency or single strategy. It's everything from what happens on our streets, to what happens in our schools, to how we respond to mental health, to whether communities have the resources they need before violence ever starts. And now, the city is making a structural shift. The mayor has created a new position, Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, a role designed to bring all of those moving pieces under one umbrella. Here to discuss is the Deputy Mayor of Community Safety, Renita Francois. I'm Angelo Pinto, and this is Let It Rip. So Deputy Mayor, first, congratulations.
Thank you.
On the new position. For those who may not be familiar with you, who are just learning about you now as you get this new appointment, tell them a little bit about who you are and what makes you the perfect candidate for this position.
Who I am. So I'm a lot of things. You know, I'm a daughter, I'm a mother, I'm a sister of many siblings. I'm the big sister to 10 younger siblings, which I think gives you a certain, worldview and toughness in and of itself. But I'm originally from South Central LA. I've been in New York for almost 20 years. I am the daughter of a public servant. And, as I said during the announcement, that public servant raised public servants. And so I have served in many frontline roles. I worked for the city of Los Angeles and the city of Compton on Section 8 programs as what many people call a worker, or eligibility interviewer, advisor. I came here to New York and I started working at OCA, the Office of Court Administration, in the budget office. From there, I became a resource coordinator working in the JD part in Brooklyn Family Court, really when alternatives to detention were fairly new, and trying to keep our kids in community and make sure they have the support and the resources that they needed at a time when, before it raised the age, when 16-year-olds were automatically charged as adults. That was an interesting time. So having that experience and then going on to graduate school and then to work at MOCJ, the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, on what at the time I think was probably a novel idea to many, the Mayor's Action Plan for Neighborhood Safety, whose focus was really on how do we sort of do the thing that we're trying to do now. How do we increase well-being and decrease violence in communities that have historically faced a number of challenges just in terms of inequity, in terms of over-policing, and just lack of opportunity in general, and having an understanding of how that distress concentrated in place, the outcome of that is crime.
So a lot of experience at the city agency level, for sure. How do you feel about that experience and kind of this new position, which for many appears to want to create some coordination amongst those agencies, particularly around this issue of public safety? Do you feel like that agency experience gives you kind of an insight into how the agencies work, how potential collaboration can happen, and in the ideal world, what the future looks like around all those things?
Yeah, I think frontline experience is important to any leader who wants to do well. I think that New York City is, of course, a massive city with a ton of public servants and civil servants trying to do the best that they can to deliver whatever the services that they are meant to provide to New Yorkers. And so having that frontline experience, understanding what it's like to both be in community, to work for community, to come up in the communities like the ones that we are trying to support, I think gives me a unique insight working on the Mayor's Action Plan for Neighborhood Safety. We focused on NYCHA developments, public housing developments that experience high rates of violence, and really being on the ground with the folks in those communities who are often stigmatized and just overlooked in general, and trying to build partnership between them and frontline staff and city leadership was a tremendous task that I think we made significant progress on. And so I'm just really excited to bring that experience to this conversation. And I know a lot of folks use the terms public safety and community safety interchangeably, but I'm really thinking about community safety as the role of the civilian population in trying to affect what makes them feel safe and whole. What is the role of the rest of us outside of the traditional public safety apparatus? what is our ability to affect change, and how do we do that with the right resources, support, collaboration, and investment, which is what we're trying to do with OCS.
Now, one of the things folks think about when they think about safety is always policing, which of course is a rather large city agency in the context of New York City and most cities. Specifically around your coordination with other agency leaders, has there been conversations and coordination with the police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, now that you've stepped into this new role?
I have not spoken to Commissioner Tisch yet. I look forward to working with her, to hearing her concerns, to hearing the concerns of the men and women that she supports, and for sharing. And I look forward to sharing the perspective of, the community and the public servants that work under the the Office of Community Safety, soon to be Department of Community Safety. I look forward to bringing those concerns to the conversation with her as well.
And how will some of that agency coordination look? Will the police commissioner and others report to you directly? Will there be some kind of cross collaboration where there's joint partnership? Has it even been decided? What are your thoughts or your understanding of how that works?
So the police commissioner decidedly does not report to me. I look at the police commissioner as a partner, just like I do the other deputy mayors and commissioners, and I think that it's our responsibility as leaders who are tasked with visioning and strategy for how to best support New Yorkers to come together to do that collaboration and to do it in earnest. And so I'm looking forward to doing that.
So one of the things that, of course, is always happening in New York City is, especially with social media, you're seeing incidents with police play out in real time. Recently in Brooklyn, there was an incident where a man was brutally assaulted by a particular unit that now has been disbanded by the mayor. What are your thoughts around those incidents? And when you see them now as you step into this new role, is that something that is at the forefront of your mind? How do I respond to this? Do you kind of take it in stride? What's your approach to those moments?
I'm from South Central LA, and I was born in the 80s and raised in the 90s. And so incidences of police brutality are not something that I can look at and look away from and go on about my day. I think people, no matter what community they live in, no matter where they come from, deserve to be treated with dignity and humanity and respect. I think the police commissioner would agree with me on that. And so I think probably what many New Yorkers think when they see these things is that incidences like this continue to erode trust and continue to just interfere with our ability to build a positive relationship with police so that we can collaborate on the things that we need to do to help increase safety in our community. And so, that is the police commissioner's job to deal with and respond to these issues. And I will continue to support the community and lift up the community voice when these incidences happen.
And have you thought about what your vision is now in this new position? Of course, a lot of things shifting around the city. Have you thought about what do I want to see as the new deputy mayor around safety for the city? What's your vision?
My vision for safety is really that, like I said before, that not just the police or just the agencies that are, or the offices that are a part of OCS, but really every single tool that the city has in its toolkit is able to deliver the services and the support and the resources that the folks of our city deserve as New Yorkers in order to help us build the strong communities that we need to support productive outcomes and equitable outcomes in our city. So that means whether it be collaboration with the Department of Education, which is not under OCS, or the Department of Youth and Community Development, or a partnership with my counterpart, Julie Sue, who's working on economic justice being a viable pathway out of conditions that produce violence. I think that we have to see safety really as everyone's responsibility and as something that really is critical to the success of our city, not just one individual community or one single person. Safety really is for all, and that's the way that we need to orient ourselves to look at it. If we want to have a thriving city, we have to have thriving people who live in that city. And in order for us to thrive, people have to feel and be safe.
Great conversation. And I'd like to thank the Deputy Mayor as we stay on top of this issue. We'll take a short break and discuss more when we come back. I'm Angelo Pinto, and this is Let It Rip. In recent weeks, New Yorkers have watched a series of incidents that have raised questions about how public safety is being defined. and enforced. In Brooklyn, a video went viral showing Timothy L. Brown being brutally assaulted inside a store by plainclothes NYPD officers. The footage spread quickly, sparking outrage, confusion, and demands for accountability. To make matters even worse, a sitting New York City Council member, Chi Osei, was recently struck, violently thrown to the ground, and arrested by NYPD at an anti-eviction protest, later to be given a desk appearance ticket and charged with 1 count of obstruction of administration and 2 counts of disorderly conduct. Joining us to discuss is New York City Council member Shahana Hanif, community organizer Khari Edwards, and hip-hop artist and co-founder of Until Freedom, Mysonne Linen. Councilwoman, I'll go straight to you. Video just released, council member, an elected official of the city being brutally assaulted by the NYPD, thrown to the ground, given a desk appearance ticket. What are your thoughts on all this?
I'm appalled. Chi has been protecting residents in Bed-Stuy for as long as I've known him as a council member. Deed theft is what we're working against and want the governor to place an eviction moratorium, period. So police show up to a rally where residents gather to protect a community member instead of thinking about who committed the deed theft, where's the fraud. And so I think it's an important conversation that police show up during peaceful protests, peaceful rallies where we're trying to show our community that we're not going to let it happen, that and then brutalize not only the council member, also several members of the community. 2 of them were hospitalized. Chi's since been released. However, he was slammed to the ground. He was slammed to the ground and taken by his legs. Like, it just,
a very brutal incident.
It's just brutal.
And I want to pull both of you into the conversation. I'm sure you both saw the video. What are your thoughts? An elected official in New York City being brutally assaulted by the NYPD.
For me, it's just business as usual by the NYPD. We talked about what happened in Queens, which was appalling. And then I just seen recently something that happened in the Bronx where the police were punching a man in the face, and it's just like, at what point do the police really have some consequences? We can denounce the behavior, but when do they get fired? When are they going to be held accountable? When are they going to start losing their jobs? When they start getting sued? I just think at this point, we know what the issue is, and I think the police think that they're above the law. And if the police can do that, then what happens to the citizens? What do you think is going to be the reaction of a citizen? I'm a grown adult man, and you're not going to just punch me in the face, And no man is about self-preservation. So if we can't have the law protect and serve us, then we have to protect and serve.
And you probably can't foster a feeling of safety and peace and nonviolence amongst the community when you're inflicting violence at every turn.
Yeah, I mean, what if it wasn't Chi, right? It goes
What if
so.
it was Timothy Brown,
right,
in Brooklyn?
I have 2 sons. What if it's one of my sons, right? And that is what is the problem for me in that respect, because you have an elected official who they clearly knew was an elected official, right? Doesn't matter if he had a suit on or whatever. We've seen him, and you're that comfortable doing that, in the name of law, right? Or the name of obstruction. And the reality of it is, I had an incident the other day. I'm driving in a suit. I get pulled over, hand the cop my stuff, and he's just itching me on, wanting a reaction from me, all the while holding his hand on his gun. And I'm like, so what if I did respond? And Mysonne I was talking about before, what if I do respond? Then
And
now,
to your point around comfort, because you're this comfortable, you have a body cam, everyone has a cell phone, not only comfortable, but perhaps protected, right? You're protected to inflict this kind of pain and violence on particular demographics of the community. And then the other piece is, of course, we saw what happened with Timothy Brown in Brooklyn, brutally assaulted in a store. The mayor has since disbanded that unit. I wonder, perhaps, is the NYPD reacting to what the mayor is doing to fellow officers by saying, hey, now we're going to really move how we choose to move and, show our position and our disdain for what the mayor is doing. What do we think about this?
I don't think this is a reaction. I mean, this is just status quo. And we're lifting up these incidents because people, brave people, have been recording and putting it out to the networks that we belong to and showing up when we're demanding that the officer be arrested and fired, prosecuted.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a little of both. I think that it may not be a direct reaction to the disbanding of the unit, but I do go back and show my age about the Dinkins administration, right? And how cops started to take control of what they felt should have been a certain way and create an uncomfortable place for a mayor who's doing a great job. And this mayor is, in my opinion, beloved mayor wanting to do change, but change doesn't come comfortably. And that's part of where I'm looking at it, like, are we trying to set him up to fail, you know, by creating these environments where these environments are now saying, well, you're not doing your job. You know, how are you reacting to it? And so my hope is to really protect him by really continuing to show people, look, these are independent cops, or do we have a systematic issue? Because that's part of my thing. So I'm with you on that. I think it's a little
And can he be protected with the police commissioner like Jessica Tisch in place, right? Who may be protecting the alternative. And also, is this a question around the culture of policing? What are your thoughts on that, Councilwoman?
100%. This has been a known fact that our police system has surveilled New Yorkers. I'm Muslim, and during 9/11, post 9/11, so many community members were detained, deported, but they were not the persons of interest. And then similarly, when I got to Brooklyn College as a student, there were informants that were in our Muslim associations trying to pick out vulnerable students and have them end up at Rikers.
Mr. Linen, what do you think? You mentioned this idea of real accountability in these incidents because, of course, it hasn't happened. What do you think that should look like in the city, particularly where police incidents may escalate or we may see an escalation in coming months?
I think, like he said, there's a culture of violence inside of the police station, and it's not just the city police, it's not state police. When we look at ICE, we see that it comes from the beginning, from the head down. And, you know, when you say that you give police immunity, they all believe that they have immunity. I think at some point when we talk about ending qualified immunity, that's one of the things that needs to happen. Because when these officers realize that they will be held accountable when they do harm to you and it's coming out their paycheck and they're not getting any pensions and things of that nature, then you'll see real reaction. You'll see people start thinking twice. You'll see people start thinking about empathy and humanity and see individuals as humans. So you take away qualified immunity, you start punishing these officers who are injuring our people, and then you'll see real results.
And I would like to hear more from the other panelists. How do we respond? What are the consequences? Not only that, you talk about the lawsuits NYPD is kind of facing every year, over $100+ million, and this falls on our taxes, our tax dollars to pay. How do we respond to create real consequences to hopefully push back and prevent what we're seeing?
I mean, if the councilwoman commits a crime, right, there's been a law passed that she loses her pension. What he's saying is correct, right? Like, there is no penalty for your behavior. You know, you're behind that blue wall, you know, and you'll sit at a desk, you'll still get paid, you know, you may get your gun taken away, but in the end, there are no processes in place. And I think this is a great moment for the police commissioner, as well as the mayor, to now create a place of, look, you guys are creating an unsafe community human-wise, right? Let us start to put those kind of things in place, that if you are seen doing X, Y, and Z, that you will have to face the same issues that now elected officials have to face if they take a bribe. Like, it's crazy, but that's how you beating people. An elected official takes a bribe, they lose their pension, you get to go back to
So there's certainly not equity. Now we have this, of course, this new moment where we have a new deputy of community safety. What are your thoughts around this idea that the police commissioner doesn't essentially kind of, you know, report to this new deputy mayor? Do you folks think she should? What's your sense on that?
I think it should be cohesion, right? If we're talking about community safety, it should be working alongside the police officers. She's in charge, you're in charge, and we figure out what's best for the community. And the community, you can't have nothing about us without us, right? So if this is our community safety representative, and this is supposed to be police, and they're involved and in charge of safety, then they should be together and having real conversations and talking about what's really going to work for the community.
Councilwoman, what are your thoughts about this?
I agree. I would say that broadly, that a cohesive relationship, a collaborative relationship is best. However, I don't see that as our reality. Our police commissioner has remained very silent on what reforms she might want to see in policing, or how she's treating officers. She's been quiet, which we know she has. And the Department of Community Safety is presenting alternatives and showing that we have to address root causes. And the city agencies that are going to fall under that department will be responding.
And I'd just like to add something. There was something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and since I have a council member here, does NYPD have cultural sensitivity training, right? Is it a mandated process from the academy every 5 years? And I mean, I think I would love to the city council.
I don't think.
I know they may not get passed.
No,
but
not even past. Trainings have never fixed anything.
That part.
Right.
And I say that because right now, as Trump is president, and we've seen he's using ICE agents to literally rip families apart, kill people. They're killing people without consequence. I think that has been encouraging to the police apparatus nationwide.
Well, powerful conversation. We'll stay on top of this important issue as the people demand accountability. We'll take a short break and discuss more when we come back. I'm Angelo Pinto, and this is Let It Rip. Leadership at the New York City Department of Youth and Community Development is not abstract. It lives at the intersection of opportunity and urgency. This is an agency responsible for reaching young people where they are, in after-school programs, in workforce pipelines, in community centers. And in moments of crisis, join us to discuss the state of our youth is the new Commissioner of the Department of Youth and Community Development, DYCD, Sandra Escamilla-Davies. First of all, congratulations on your new appointment. For those who may not be familiar with you, tell them a little bit about your history, your background that prepared you for this position.
Yeah. I have been a social worker for over 25 years, so I came to this work as a social worker. But I also came to this work first as the daughter of Ismael and Nubia Escamilla, who are immigrants from Colombia, South America. My father by way of Lebanon, Beirut. And I think that's an important and critical part, because I think early on when they came to this country, the idea of them being the first to arrive, my father is one of 8, my mother is one of 12. They were the hub by which every single family member migrated to this country. And this idea of kind of building a community and to help others was very instrumental to my upbringing, and I got to witness it firsthand. And so this idea of like helping people, giving them resources, helping them not only to stabilize but to thrive was very much something that I learned from my mom and dad first. And so it was natural that my siblings and I all went into the helping industries. I'm a social worker, and my siblings are all in the medical professions or in education because of that upbringing.
What's your vision for DYCD? How do you see things shaping out as you step into this role? What do you see even happening in the near future, the next 60, 30, 90 days?
Yeah. So I would say, you know, because I come to this as a practitioner, it's really interesting to be on the other side of the work and to see how city government moves. And so my hope and my vision is to figure out how to continue to deliver on the mayor's agenda of an affordable, equitable, and safe New York City. And I think DYCD is best positioned to do that because we have an ecosystem of community-based organizations that are delivering services to communities and their families across the 5 boroughs through all of our programs. So my vision is to figure out first and foremost, how to stabilize that ecosystem, because for a very long time, and this goes with the affordability agenda, for a long time, providers have been doing a lot with little money and little resources. Some of our contracts are outdated. We have issues with paying our providers on time, and I know this firsthand because of being on the provider side. So my vision is to how do I stabilize the ecosystem by figuring out ways how to create efficiencies to pay providers on time, but also to even out the playing field, because some of the contracts and some of the supports they get are outdated in terms of salaries and in terms of the resources they need. So really raising the floor on salaries and thinking about the quality programs that will help young people meet this moment, which is very different post-COVID.
Fascinating. So some administrative pieces, some transformation,
Yes.
interagency. You know, one of the things that people are paying attention to now is there was a young man shot in Queens,
Yes.
15-year-old. How do you see that experience? How do you see DYC playing a role in
Yeah.
those kinds of incidents? Of course, there was also a 7-month-old shot in
Yes.
Brooklyn. What are your thoughts around those incidents and kind of the interplay of DYCD in addressing or playing any kind
Yeah.
of role in those things?
Yeah, it's a tragic loss.
Yes.
Jaden's it was a senseless murder. And what I know to be true is that we have 100 programs in that area, and we're not meeting the needs maybe, right? Or we need to think about differently how to engage young people. So what I see us doing is thinking about the front door, the preventive aspects, like making sure that we have, the engaging activities that young people need to thrive and to feel like they're contributing to their communities. But also there are young people who lose their way. We need to figure out also how to engage them. So I see DYCD playing a pivotal role now in this moment in particular in creating youth forums for young people to say, hey, how do we show up as an organization that supports organizations to be there for young people? What do we need to be doing differently? How do we make it so that we are more attractive than whatever is calling to you, whether it be social media or the streets? And so really going on listening tours. And one of the things that my team and I committed is having a summer of safety and partnering with young people to determine what safety looks like for them.
The summer, of course, is coming. It's getting hot.
Yeah.
Young people may find themselves interacting with the NYPD. There may be some issue there. How do you address that? As you mentioned, kind of these other pieces where they may not be entering programs that are available to them. How do you prevent that from being a crisis that happens across the city as well?
Yeah, I would say it's partnerships with other city organizations, with the NYPD. We've done a lot of work with our community-based organizations to have partnerships with precincts, and there are a lot of officers who are really supporting young people and having them think about kind of what the police can offer in a different way, right? So this idea of those partnerships are critical, but I think at its core, we have to address the trauma that young people have felt, right, post-COVID. I'm a social worker. I don't know that my baby social worker self of 30 years ago could contend with the level of trauma and isolation and disconnect that young people feel from themselves, from each other, and from their community. So our job is to reconnect them to their ecosystem, to their families, to their friends, to peers that are doing something so that we don't lose them. Because sometimes we think about triage, like what happens when, but I'm saying let's figure out how to prevent and reconnect so that we don't have to think about another Jaden being murdered in a park.
This was an amazing conversation from top to bottom. I'd like to thank all of our guests for sharing their insight. And as always, we'll stay on top of these issues that matter most to you. We will continue to speak truth to power, push those in power. I'm Angelo Pinto, and this is Let It Rip.